The bracelet my 8-year-old made me was supposed to be a gift of love. But when a wealthy stranger cornered me in a thrift store, looked at my wrist and whispered, "Those belong to my daughter," I knew something impossible had just happened. Because her daughter had been dead for 6 months. The same 6 months my son spent collecting special beads he wouldn't explain. And when she showed me the photo, the exact pattern, the exact beads on her daughter's wrist 2 weeks before she died, I had to ask myself, can the dead choose who receives their love? Because if they can't, then how do you explain what I'm about to tell you? The day a stranger told me to take off my son's gift. I wasn't supposed to be shopping at Goodwill on a Tuesday morning, but grief doesn't follow anyone's schedule, and neither does poverty. It had been 14 months since Michael died. 14 months since the cancer took him in the middle of the night while I was asleep beside him, my hand in his, unaware that his last breath had already slipped away. 14 months of learning to be both mother and father to our 8-year-old son, Ethan. 14 months of overdue bills, food bank visits, and the particular shame that comes with counting pennies at the grocery store checkout while people behind you sigh impatiently. I was hunting for a winter coat for Ethan. His was 2 sizes too small, the cuffs frayed, the zipper broken. My fingers moved mechanically through the rack, checking price tags, avoiding eye contact with other shoppers. I'd perfected the art of invisibility in places like this. That's when I felt it. The weight of someone's stare, heavy as a hand on my shoulder. I glanced up and saw her across the aisle, a woman in her mid-50s, impeccably dressed in cream wool and pearls that probably cost more than my car. Her hair was styled in that expensive way that looks effortless but requires a team. She was holding a vintage scarf, but she wasn't looking at it. She was looking at me. More specifically at my wrist. At the bracelet. Ethan had made it for me 6 months ago during art therapy at his school. The counselor said creating something with his hands might help him process his father's death. He'd used leather cord, mismatched beads he'd collected. Some from my old jewelry, some from the craft store, one from his father's broken watch. It was clumsy, imperfect, beautiful. The beads didn't match. The knots were uneven. But when he'd fastened it around my wrist with trembling 8-year-old fingers and whispered, "So you always have something for me and Daddy," I'd sworn I'd never take it off. I hadn't. The woman was still staring. I turned back to the coat rack, my pulse quickening with that familiar anxiety. The kind that comes from being looked at when you'd rather disappear. Maybe she recognized me from somewhere. Maybe I looked like someone she knew. Maybe. "Excuse me." Her voice was sharp, cultured, used to being obeyed. I turned slowly. She'd crossed the aisle and was standing close enough that I could smell her perfume. Something floral and expensive that didn't belong in a thrift store any more than she did.
The real treasures in life
Yes,
aren't the things we
my
achieve,
voice came out
but the memories we
smaller than I
create and the
intended.
people we share them
Her
with.
eyes were fixed on my wrist. On Ethan's bracelet. Something flickered across her face. Recognition? Anger? Pain? I couldn't tell. "That bracelet," she said, her voice dropping to something dangerous and quiet. "Where did you get it?" My hand instinctively moved to cover it, protective. My son made it for me. Why? Her jaw tightened. Her eyes, ice blue and unforgiving, locked onto mine. "I need you to take it off." The world seemed to tilt slightly. "I'm sorry, what?" "You heard me." Her voice was louder now, drawing glances from other shoppers. "Take it off." Have you ever had someone judge something precious to you without knowing its story? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear what it was and how you responded. My heart was hammering against my ribs. Around us, the thrift store had gone quiet. That particular silence that descends when strangers sense conflict brewing. "I don't understand," I said, my voice shaking. "This is from my son. He made it for me. I don't care who made it." Her words came out clipped, precise. That bracelet, or something identical to it, was stolen from my home 6 months ago. It belonged to my daughter. The accusation hit me like cold water. Stolen. I didn't steal anything. My 8-year-old son made this for me after his father died. He used beads from our home from. Convenient story. She cut me off, her face flushing with something that looked like rage but felt like pain. "Do you have any idea what that bracelet means?" What it represents. Yes, I said, and now my voice was steel. It represents my son's love. It represents him trying to help me survive the worst year of my life. And I'm not taking it off. Her hand shot out, not to grab me, but close enough that I flinched. She was trembling. You don't understand, she whispered, and for a moment, the anger cracked and something raw showed through. That pattern. Those beads. The blue glass one with the gold flecks, that's vintage Venetian glass. The wooden bead with the carved rose, that's from a rosary my mother brought from Ireland. The silver charm is from my husband's broken watch, I interrupted, pulling my wrist back. These are our things. From our life. She stared at me, and I watched something crumble behind her eyes. No, she said, but the word had lost its conviction. No, that's not possible. A store employee, a young woman with concerned eyes, approached cautiously. Is everything okay here? This woman is wearing stolen property, the woman said, but her voice wavered. I'm wearing a gift from my son, I said firmly. And I'm going to pay for this coat and leave. But I couldn't move. Neither could she. We were locked in something neither of us understood. Two women, strangers, tethered by a handmade bracelet and the ghosts we both carried. The store manager, a middle-aged man with kind eyes, appeared beside the employee. Ladies, perhaps we should talk about this somewhere private? There's nothing to talk about, I said. I'm leaving. Please, the woman said, and the word stopped me cold. It wasn't commanding anymore. It was begging. Please, just give me 5 minutes. Let me explain. I should have walked away. I should have grabbed Ethan's coat, paid, and disappeared into my invisible life. But something in her face, the way her composure was cracking like ice over deep water, made me stay. 5 minutes, I said. Then I'm leaving. The manager led us to a small office behind the checkout counter. It smelled like old coffee and cardboard. The woman sat in one chair, I took the other. The door closed, leaving us in suffocating proximity. She wouldn't look at me now. Her hands were folded in her lap, knuckles white. I'm listening, I said, keeping my voice cold. I'd learned to build walls quickly. It was a survival skill when you were drowning in grief and poverty. She took a breath that shuddered through her entire body. 6 months ago, my daughter died. She was 16. The words came out flat, practiced, like she'd said them 100 times to therapists and well-meaning friends. Leukemia. She fought for 3 years and then, she was just gone. My anger flickered, guttered. I knew that particular species of pain. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it. Before she died, she made bracelets. Dozens of them. It was the only thing she could do toward the end when she was too weak for anything else. She'd sit in her hospital bed, stringing beads, making these talismans. She said they were magic, that anyone who wore one would be protected. Her voice broke on the last word. She made me one. Blue Venetian glass, a wooden rose bead, a silver charm from her grandmother's bracelet. The exact pattern I see on your wrist. I looked down at Ethan's creation. The blue bead did have gold flecks. The wooden bead did have a carved design, though I'd never looked closely enough to see if it was a rose. The silver charm was from Michael's watch, but it was small, delicate, could have come from anywhere. It's not the same bracelet, I said, but doubt had crept into my voice. Isn't it? She finally looked at me, and her eyes were drowning pools. Or did your son find beads that matched exactly? In the same order. With the same spacing. My mind raced. Ethan had been so secretive about making the bracelet. He'd worked on it at school, brought it home finished. I'd never asked where he got all the beads. I'd assumed. My son wouldn't steal, I said, but the words felt hollow. I'm not saying he did. I'm saying, coincidences like this don't happen. Then what are you saying? She leaned forward. I'm saying I need to know where those beads came from. Because if there's even a chance, any chance, that this is connected to my daughter, then I need to understand how. I need. She stopped, covering her face with her hands. I need something of her back, she whispered. I need to know she's still here somehow. The walls I'd built wavered. This wasn't about accusation anymore. This was about two mothers, both clinging to fragments of the children they'd lost, or were terrified of losing. "I'll ask my son," I heard myself say. "I'll ask him where he got the beads." She looked up, mascara smudged. "You will. But I'm not taking it off," I added quickly. "Not until I understand what's happening." She nodded almost frantically. "Yes. Yes, of course. I need to know." "So do I." We sat in heavy silence, the air thick with shared grief and confusion. "What was her name?" I asked quietly. "Your daughter." "Victoria." The name came out like a prayer. "We called her Tori. My husband was Michael. We called him Mike." She met my eyes, and for the first time, I saw past the expensive clothes and sharp edges. I saw another woman treading water in an ocean of loss. "How long?" she asked. 14 months. "I'm sorry." "So am I. For you." The moment stretched, fragile as spun glass. Then my phone buzzed. Ethan's school. Probably calling to remind me about the parent-teacher conference I'd forgotten. Again. I stood. "I have to go. But I'll talk to my son. Tonight." "Can I?" She fumbled in her purse, pulled out a business card. "Can I give you my number? In case." I took the card. Felt the expensive cardstock between my fingers. Catherine Whitmore. Chief Executive Officer. Of course she was a CEO. Of course. "I'll call you," I said. "When I know something." She nodded, looking smaller than when we'd started. I walked out of that office feeling like I'd stepped into someone else's story, and I had no idea how it would end. I didn't make it out of the parking lot. As I was loading Ethan's new coat into my car, a 15-year-old Honda with a cracked windshield and a passenger door that stuck, I heard the sharp click of expensive heels on asphalt. Wait. Catherine Whitmore was practically running toward me, her composure completely shattered. Tears streaked her face, and she was clutching something in her hand. "I can't." She stopped a few feet from me, breathing hard. "I can't just let you drive away. Please. I know I have no right to ask, but can we talk
The
more?
real treasures in life
Really
aren't the
talk.
things we
I
achieve,
should have said
but the
no.
memories we create
I
and
should
the
have
people we
driven
share
away
them
from
with.
this woman
Treasures in
and her
life aren't the things
accusations
we
and her
achieve,
grief that
but the
mirrored
memories
my
we
own
create
too
and the people
perfectly.
we share them with.
About
Treasures
what?
in life aren't the things
I
we
asked
achieve,
instead.
but the memories we
About
create
how
and
this
the people we
happened.
share them with.
About
Treasures
our
in life
children.
aren't the things we
About.
achieve, but the
She
memories we
held out
create
what
and the
she'd
people
been
we share
clutching.
them with.
It was a photo, creased from being carried in her wallet. A teenage girl with luminous eyes and no hair, smiling despite the hospital gown, holding up a handful of colorful bracelets. My breath caught. "That's Tori," Catherine whispered. 2 weeks before she died. "Those are the bracelets she made. Do you see the one on her left wrist?" I looked closer. Blue glass with gold flecks. Wooden bead. Silver charm. Identical to mine. "I don't understand," I said, and my voice was barely audible. "Neither do I. But I need to. Please." Her voice cracked completely. "There's a coffee shop across the street. Give me 30 minutes. Let me explain everything about Tori, and you tell me everything about your son. Maybe together we can figure out how this is possible." Every instinct screamed at me to leave, to protect myself and Ethan from whatever this was. But I looked at her face, at the desperation and grief carved into every line, and I saw myself. I saw every morning I'd woken up reaching for Michael's side of the bed. Every time I'd broken down in the grocery store because I'd accidentally bought his favorite cereal. Every moment I'd wondered if I'd ever feel human again. 30 minutes, I said. The coffee shop was nearly empty. Just us and a college student hunched over a laptop in the corner. We sat by the window, 2 untouched lattes between us. Catherine pulled out her phone, scrolled through photos with trembling hands. This is Tori at 13, before her diagnosis. A laughing girl with long dark hair, holding a soccer trophy. This is her at 14, after her first round of chemo. The same girl, bald but smiling, wearing a ridiculous oversized hat. This is her at 15, in remission. Hair grown back, pixie cut, eyes blazing with hope. And this is her at 16 when it came back. The hospital bed photo. The bracelets. The smile that knew it was saying goodbye. I felt tears on my face. She was beautiful, I whispered. She was everything. Catherine's voice broke. And when she died, my husband Richard and we fell apart. He threw himself into work. I threw myself into control. We stopped talking. Stopped touching. Stopped being anything except two people living in a mausoleum of our daughter's memory. I know that feeling, I said. Except for me, it was just silence. Ethan and me, alone in a house that still smelled like Michael's aftershave. Bills I couldn't pay. A future I couldn't imagine. How did you survive? I didn't, I said honestly. I'm still drowning. But Ethan, he keeps pulling me back to the surface. Like with this bracelet. I touched it gently. He made it because he said I needed something beautiful that wouldn't break. He didn't want me to be sad anymore. Catherine's hand reached across the table, stopped just short of touching mine. Can I see it? She asked. Up close. I hesitated, then extended my arm. She bent over the bracelet like a scholar examining ancient text. Her finger traced each bead, her breath coming faster. This blue glass, she whispered. I bought this for Tori in Venice when she was 12. She treasured it. This wooden bead, it was from my mother's rosary. Tori cut it off when Mom died because she wanted to carry her with her always. And this charm. She looked up at me, eyes wide with something between terror and wonder. This isn't similar to Tori's bracelet. This is Tori's bracelet. The world tilted again. That's impossible, I said. Ethan made this. At school. His art therapist supervised. Where did he get the beads? I don't know. I assumed from the craft supplies at school, from where? Catherine's voice was urgent now, not accusing. Desperate. Please think. Did he bring anything home? Did he go anywhere? My mind raced backward. 6 months ago. Ethan had been so excited about his art therapy project. He'd mentioned collecting special beads, said he wanted to make me something meaningful. But he'd been secretive about where he got them. Then I remembered. The estate sale, I whispered. What? 6 months ago. There was an estate sale in Morningside, that wealthy neighborhood on the north side. Ethan had been asking to go because he wanted to find beads for my bracelet. He said he wanted special ones, not just plastic ones from the craft store. Catherine had gone completely still. What address? I don't remember exactly. It was a big stone house. 3 stories. There was a fountain in the front yard. 1247 Sycamore Drive, Catherine said, her voice hollow. That was our house. The coffee shop seemed to recede. Everything went distant and strange. What? After Tori died, I couldn't be in that house anymore. Every room was full of her. Her bedroom, her bathroom, her art studio. Richard wanted to keep it all, make it a shrine. I needed it gone. So I hired an estate sale company. They sold everything. Her furniture, her clothes, her art supplies. Her hands were shaking now. Her jewelry. All the beads she'd collected over the years. The Venetian glass. My mother's rosary. Her grandmother's broken bracelet. I told them to sell it all because I thought if I could just erase the physical reminders, the pain would stop. Oh God, I breathed. Your son bought Tori's beads, Catherine said, and tears were streaming down her face. He bought my daughter's treasures from some estate sale vultures who sold her memory for pennies, and he made you a bracelet from her collection. He made you magic from her magic. We sat in stunned silence. I took Ethan to that sale, I said slowly, memory crystallizing. He had $12 he'd saved from his allowance. He was so focused, so determined. He spent nearly an hour at the jewelry table, picking through everything. The woman running it kept trying to rush him, but he wouldn't be rushed. He said he needed to find exactly the right beads. Ones that felt like love. Catherine made a sound. half laugh, half sob. Tori used to say the same thing. That beads had feelings. That you had to listen to them to know which ones belonged together. Ethan said that too. He said these beads wanted to be together. That they told him they needed to protect someone who was sad. We stared at each other across the table. I don't believe in magic, Catherine whispered. I don't believe in signs or messages from the dead. But this. I don't either, I said. But Ethan does. And maybe. I touched the bracelet gently. Maybe grief makes believers of us all. Catherine reached across the table again, and this time her hand closed around mine. I'm so sorry, she said, for how I approached you, for accusing you, for being so broken. Yes. I understand broken, I said. I live there too. We sat like that, two strangers holding hands across a coffee shop table, connected by dead loved ones and a child's accidental magic. Then Catherine's phone rang. She looked at the screen, and her face changed, closed off, defensive. My husband, she said. I have to. Of course. She answered, and I watched her transform back into the polished, controlled woman from the thrift store. Richard. Yes, I'm fine. No, I'm not at home. It's complicated. Can we talk about this later? A pause. Her jaw tightened. That's not fair. I'm not obsessing. I'm trying to understand something. No, it's not about Tori. Well, it is, but... Her voice got harder, sharper. You don't get to tell me how to grieve. You don't get to dictate when I stop looking for pieces of her. Just because you've moved on doesn't mean. She stopped. Listened. Her face went pale. Fine, she said coldly. I'll be home in an hour.
Treasures in life aren't the things we achieve,
She hung up
but the
without
memories we
saying
create
goodbye.
and the people we share
I'm
them
sorry
with.
you heard that, she said, not meeting my eyes. Don't be. I've had my share of hard conversations. Richard thinks I'm obsessive. That I see Tori everywhere. That I need to let go and move forward. She laughed bitterly. He's already moved forward. New routines, new focus. His grief was clean. Mine is messy. Grief isn't supposed to be clean, I said. She looked at me, and something in her face softened. Can I ask you something? Anything. Do you think Tori? Do you think somehow she knew? That these beads would find their way to someone who needed them. I thought about Ethan's face when he'd given me the bracelet. The way he'd said it would keep me safe. The way it had, not from pain but through it. I think, I said slowly, that love doesn't end. It just changes shape. And maybe your daughter's love found a way to keep traveling. Through Ethan. To me. And now back to you. Catherine's tears fell freely now. I'd like to believe that, she whispered. So would I. Do you believe that objects can carry love forward? That grief can connect strangers in unexpected ways? Tell me in the comments. I need to know I'm not alone in thinking this. We stayed in that coffee shop for 2 hours. Catherine told me about Tori, how she'd loved soccer and hated math, how she'd written poetry during chemo treatments, how she'd made everyone in the hospital laugh even when she was in pain, how she'd insisted on donating her hair before it fell out, how she'd planned her own funeral down to the music, telling her parents it was okay to be sad but not okay to stop living. I told her about Michael, how he'd been a high school English teacher who quoted Shakespeare at inappropriate moments, how he'd made terrible dad jokes that made Ethan groan, how he'd held my hand through every ultrasound when I was pregnant and whispered, "We made a person. Can you believe we made a person?" How he died so quietly I hadn't even known he was leaving. We cried. We laughed. We showed each other photos and shared stories that no one else wanted to hear anymore because everyone else had moved on. People don't know what to do with grief, Catherine said. After 6 months, they expect you to be okay. They change the subject when you mention your child. They stop asking how you are because they don't want to hear the real answer. Yes, I said. God, yes. And then you start lying. I'm fine becomes your default response even when you're dying inside. Exactly. She leaned forward. Do you know what the hardest part is? I have all this love for Tori, and nowhere to put it. It just sits inside me, growing heavier every day. I want to mother her still. I want to make her breakfast and nag her about homework and embarrass her in front of her friends. But she's gone and the love remains, and I don't know what to do with it. I understood that with every cell of my body. That's why Ethan's bracelet means so much, I said. It's a place to put the love. Proof that love Michael and I built didn't just vanish. That it's still here, still real, still worth something. Catherine looked at the bracelet with new eyes. May I? She asked, gesturing. I unclasped it, the first time I'd taken it off since Ethan gave it to me, and handed it to her. She held it like it was made of light. Her fingers traced each bead, and I watched her face transform. The hard edges softened. The corporate mask fell away. She was just a mother, holding a piece of her daughter. The blue glass, she murmured. Tori wore this the day we got lost in Venice. We'd wandered away from the tour group, and she wasn't scared at all. She said getting lost was how you found the real magic. What happened? We found this tiny square with a fountain, and there was an old woman selling beads. Tori spent an hour choosing this one. She said the gold flecks were stars trapped in glass, that they'd guide her home no matter how lost she got. Catherine's thumb moved to the wooden bead. And this. My mother's rosary. Mom died when Tori was 7. Tori didn't understand death yet, but she understood that I was sad. So she cut this bead off the rosary and strung it on yarn and wore it for a year straight. She said it meant Grandma was always hugging her heart. Ethan said something similar, I whispered. He said the bracelet was a hug I could wear when he wasn't with me. Catherine looked up, eyes shining. They're the same, she said. Tori and Ethan. They both understand that love needs to be tangible. That grief needs anchors. That magic is real if you believe hard enough. She held the bracelet out to me. Thank you, she said. For letting me hold this. For not thinking I'm crazy. For understanding. I took the bracelet back, refastened it on my wrist. I should be thanking you, I said. For telling me about Tori. For helping me understand what Ethan gave me. This isn't just his love anymore. It's hers too. It's all of us connected. Catherine smiled, a real smile, the first I'd seen from her. Can I tell you something strange? She asked. After today, strange is relative. I feel lighter. For the first time since Tori died, I feel like I can breathe. Like maybe grief doesn't have to be this crushing weight I carry alone. Like maybe. She trailed off, looking uncertain. Like maybe you're not alone. I finished. Yes. Exactly that. I reached across the table and took her hand again. You're not, I said firmly. Not anymore. Not if you don't want to be. I don't, she whispered. God, I really don't. We sat in comfortable silence, and for the first time in 14 months, I felt something I'd forgotten existed. Hope. Not for the past to change, but for the present to be survivable. For the future to be bearable. Maybe even beautiful. We exchanged numbers before leaving the coffee shop. Catherine asked if she could meet Ethan sometime, not to confront him, but to thank him for choosing Tori's beads so carefully. I said yes. Maybe next week, she suggested. Coffee again. You could bring him after school. He'd like that. He loves meeting new people. And he'll want to tell you all about the bracelet. He's very proud of it. He should be. It's. She touched the bracelet gently one more time. It's perfect. We parted ways in the parking lot, and I drove home feeling like I'd crossed some invisible threshold. Like my life had been black and white, and suddenly there was color. I picked Ethan up from school, his backpack bouncing as he ran to the car. Mom, guess what? We're doing a project on heroes, and I picked Dad. And Mrs. Chen said I can bring in photos and everything. Can we make a poster tonight? Of course, baby. And can we get poster board? The big kind. And markers. The good ones, not the dried out ones we have. We'll figure it out. He chattered all the way home about his project, his day, his friend Noah's missing tooth. Normal, beautiful, 8-year-old chaos. After dinner, spaghetti with Jared sauce, our staple. I sat him down at the kitchen table. Ethan, I need to ask you about the bracelet. His eyes lit up. Do you still love it? Because I was thinking I could make you another one. Maybe with different colors. Or, I love it more than anything. But I need to know where you got the beads. His face grew serious. From the sale. Remember. The big house. I remember. Can you tell me why you chose those specific beads? He thought for a moment. His expression intense in that way children get when they're trying to explain something they don't quite have words for. They were talking to me, he said finally. Talking to you. Not like words. Like feelings. The blue one felt like adventures. The wooden one felt like hugs. The silver one felt like time, like remembering. And when I put them together they felt like love. Like the kind of love that doesn't go away even when people do. My throat tightened. That's beautiful, sweetheart. Did I do something wrong? Is that why you're asking? No, baby. The opposite. I met someone today who knew the girl who owned those beads before you found them. His eyes went wide. Really? Is she mad? Because I paid for them. I used all my allowance. She's not mad. She's actually happy. The girl who owned them died, and the woman I met was her mother. She thinks you chose exactly the right beads. Ethan processed this, his face cycling through emotions. The girl died. Like Dad died. Yes. Was she nice? Her mother says she was very nice. And very brave. Then I'm glad I got her beads. Because now they can keep taking care of people. That's what magic things do. I pulled him into a hug. This miraculous child who understood what so many adults couldn't. That's when I heard the knock at the door. I opened it to find Catherine on my doorstep, but she wasn't alone. A tall man in an expensive suit stood beside her, his face carved from stone. His hand was on her elbow, not gentle. I'm sorry to intrude, Catherine said, but her voice was strange, distant. This is my husband, Richard. He insisted on coming. Mrs. Richard looked at me like I was something he'd scraped off his shoe. I'm sorry, I don't even know your name. Rebecca, I said, feeling Ethan press against my leg behind me. Rebecca. I'm going to be direct. My wife has had a difficult time since our daughter passed. She's been seeing Tori in everything. In strangers' faces, in random objects, in coincidences that aren't actually meaningful. Her therapist calls it magical thinking. A grief response. Catherine flinched but said nothing. I understand you have a bracelet that Catherine believes belonged to our daughter. She's convinced herself that this is some sort of sign. That your son somehow rescued Tori's spirit or something equally irrational. Richard. Catherine's voice was barely audible. No, Catherine. This has gone on long enough. He turned back to me. I'm sure you're a nice person, and I'm sure your son is a sweet kid. But this bracelet is just a bracelet. It's not magic. It's not a message from beyond. It's beads on a string that my wife is projecting her grief onto. You don't know that, Catherine said, and now there was fire in her voice. I know that you've been obsessing over estate sale inventories and calling the company every week to ask if they remember selling jewelry. I know you've driven past our old house a dozen times, hoping to see something. I know you're not healing, Catherine. You're drowning. And you're made of stone. The words burst out of her. You gave away her things without asking me. You sold our house without discussing it. You erased her like she never existed. I moved forward. Like we're supposed to. She was our daughter. You don't just move forward from that. They were shouting now, right there on my doorstep. Ethan was trembling against me. I should have closed the door. Should have removed us from their pain. But Catherine's eyes found mine, desperate and drowning. Tell him, she begged. Tell him about what Ethan said. About how the beads felt. About. Catherine, stop. Richard's voice was cold. "You're embarrassing yourself. And you're dragging this woman and her child into your delusion." "It's not a delusion. Tori made that bracelet. Her beads found their way to someone who needed them. That means something. It means nothing. It's a coincidence. And I'm done watching you chase ghosts." He turned to me, and his voice was sharp as glass. "I'm sorry my wife has dragged you into this. I hope she hasn't upset your son or made you uncomfortable. We won't bother you again." "Richard, no. We're leaving. Now." He put his hand on Catherine's arm, not quite pulling but close to it. She looked at me one last time, and the hope I'd seen in the coffee shop was gone. She was drowning again, and I couldn't reach her. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Then they were gone. I closed the door and slid down against it. Ethan stood in front of me, his eyes full of confusion and fear. "Mom, why was that man so mean? Why was he yelling?" "He's hurting, baby. People sometimes yell when they hurt." "But the lady, she believed in the magic." I could tell. "I know. Are we going to see her again?" I thought about Catherine's face, about the way her husband had looked at her, like she was broken, not grieving, like her pain was an inconvenience rather than a wound. "I don't know," I said honestly. Ethan sat down beside me on the floor. "I think she needs the bracelet more than you do," he said quietly. And my 8-year-old son broke my heart wide open. 3 days passed. I called Catherine twice. She didn't answer. I texted. Nothing. I thought about going to her house. I'd looked up her address from her business card. But what would I say? How could I help when her own husband thought grief had made her delusional? Ethan asked about her every day. "Is the sad lady okay?" "I hope so, baby. Can we invite her to my Hero Project presentation? She could meet Dad." "Kind of. Maybe." On the 4th day, I was folding laundry. Ethan's tiny socks, my threadbare work shirts, when my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello. Ms. Rebecca?" A man's voice, older, gentle. "This is Dr. Raymond Chen. I'm Catherine Whitmore's therapist. She gave me permission to contact you." My heart dropped. "Is she okay?" "That's complicated. She told me about your meeting, about the bracelet, about her daughter's beads. And I'm calling because Catherine is at a crossroads. Her husband wants her to increase her medication, to commit to more intensive therapy. He believes she's experiencing a grief-induced psychotic break, that she's fabricated meaning where none exists." "But she hasn't," I said. "The beads are real. The bracelet is real. The connection." "I believe you," Dr. Chen said quietly. "I've worked with Catherine for 8 months. I know the difference between delusion and genuine coincidence, between magical thinking and actual magic, or what can feel like magic when grief makes us open to connections we'd otherwise dismiss." "Then why?" "Because Richard isn't wrong either. Catherine has been struggling. She's been looking for Tori everywhere. This bracelet situation, it could be healing for her, or it could become another obsession that prevents her from moving forward." "What do you think it is?" "I think," he said slowly, "that depends on you." "Me. Catherine needs to know she's not crazy. That what she felt in that coffee shop with you was real. That grief can connect people in unexpected ways, and that's not pathology, it's humanity. But she also needs to know that connection isn't the same as resurrection. That honoring Tori's memory doesn't mean living in the past." "I don't know if I can help with that." "I think you already have. She talks about you constantly. About how you understood. About how you didn't think she was broken. That validation means everything to someone who's been told their grief is wrong for 8 months. I thought about Catherine's face in that coffee shop. The way she'd held the bracelet. The way she'd smiled for the first time in who knew how long. What do you want me to do?" "Come to our session tomorrow. Both of you, you and Ethan. Let Catherine see that the bracelet's magic isn't just in her head. That your son really did choose those beads with care. That Tori's love really did find a way forward. Then let her decide what comes next. Will her husband be there? No. This is Catherine's choice, not his. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. What time? Dr. Chen's office was in a converted Victorian house downtown. All warm wood and soft lighting. Nothing clinical about it. Ethan clutched my hand as we walked in. Remember what we talked about, I said quietly. The lady we're meeting is very sad because her daughter died. But your bracelet made her feel better. We're here to help her understand that's okay. I remember. I brought something. He held up a small paper bag. What's in there? A surprise. For her. Catherine was already in Dr. Chen's office when we arrived. She looked smaller than I remembered. Fragile, like she'd been carved from soap and might dissolve under pressure. When she saw Ethan, her face crumpled. "Oh," she whispered. "Hello." Ethan walked right up to her, fearless in the way only children can be. "Hi. I'm Ethan. I made the bracelet my mom is wearing. The one with your daughter's beads." "I know," Catherine said softly. "Thank you for taking such good care of them." I didn't know they were hers when I got them. But I know now. And I think I picked them because she wanted me to. Because they needed to keep protecting people. Catherine's eyes filled with tears. "Do you really think that?" "I know that. Beads don't lie. They tell you what they need to do." Dr. Chen watched from his chair, saying nothing. Ethan reached into his paper bag. "I made you something," he said. "It's not as good as the one I made for Mom, because I'm still learning. But I thought you might want it." He pulled out another bracelet, this one made with leather cord and different beads. Blues and purples and one wooden bead carved with a star. "These are new beads," Ethan explained. "I bought them with my allowance last week. But I made it the same way I made Mom's. By listening. And these beads said they wanted to go to someone who lost somebody important. Someone who needed to remember that love doesn't end." He held it out to Catherine. She took it with shaking hands, and then she broke. Not a quiet cry, a full-body sob that shook her entire frame. Dr. Chen moved forward, but I held up a hand. Sometimes people needed to break completely before they could start reassembling. Ethan, with the confidence of a child who'd comforted his own mother through countless breakdowns, wrapped his small arms around Catherine. "It's okay," he said softly. "You can be sad. Sad doesn't mean broken. It just means you loved someone a lot." Catherine held him like he was made of light. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." We talked for an hour after that. Catherine told Ethan about Tori, about her soccer games and her poetry and her ridiculous hat collection during chemo, about how she'd been brave and funny and so loved. Ethan told Catherine about Michael, about his dad jokes and his Shakespeare quotes and how he'd made the best pancakes every Sunday. They bonded over loss, these two souls separated by decades but connected by grief. "Can I ask you something?" Catherine said to Ethan finally. "Anything. Do you think the people we love can see us? After they die?" Ethan thought about this seriously. "I don't know if they can see us," he said. "But I think they can feel us. Like when I think about Dad really hard, I get warm inside. I think that's him feeling me love him. And I think when you think about Tori, she feels it too." "Like beads," Catherine whispered. "Like beads," Ethan agreed. "They connect things even when you can't see the string." Dr. Chen finally spoke. "Catherine, how do you feel right now?" She looked down at the bracelet Ethan had made her, then at me, then at my son. "I feel like I've been given permission to remember Tori without apologizing for it. To carry her with me not as a ghost, but as love. To believe that even though she's gone, she's still part of the world. Through these beads, through Ethan's kindness, through Rebecca's understanding." "Is that delusion?" Dr. Chen asked gently. "No," Catherine said firmly. "It's faith. And I'm tired of people telling me faith is the same as insanity." "Me too," I said. She looked at me, and something passed between us, a recognition, a bond, a promise. "Can we be friends?" she asked, and her voice was young, uncertain. Not because of Tori's beads or Michael's memory, but because I haven't had a friend in so long. Because everyone else treats me like I'm fragile or crazy, and you treat me like I'm just human. Yes, I said without hesitation. We can be friends. Ethan grinned. Does this mean you'll come to my Hero Project presentation? Because I'm doing it about my dad, and I think you'd understand. Catherine smiled, a real smile, the kind that reached her eyes. I would be honored. The Hero Project presentation was in Ethan's school gymnasium on a Thursday evening. Catherine arrived early, wearing Ethan's bracelet on her right wrist. Her expensive jewelry was gone. She looked lighter somehow, less polished, more real. I hope it's okay that I came alone, she said. Richard and I are working some things out. But I didn't want to miss this. I'm glad you're here, I said. We stood together in front of Ethan's poster board, a collage of photos of Michael, laughing at the beach, reading to baby Ethan, wearing a ridiculous Halloween costume, being gloriously, ordinarily human. He was beautiful, Catherine said softly. So was Tori. They'd probably have been friends, don't you think? Mike and Tori. Absolutely. He'd have made terrible dad jokes, and she'd have rolled her eyes and laughed anyway. Then they still are friends, Catherine said. Somewhere. When it was Ethan's turn to present, he stood in front of his poster with absolute confidence. My hero is my dad, Michael, he began. He died when I was 7, which was really sad. But even though he's not here, he's still my hero because he taught me important things. He pointed to a photo of Michael pushing him on a swing. He taught me that love means pushing people forward even when you're scared they'll fly away. He taught me that making people laugh is better than making them scared. And he taught me that when people die, they don't stop being part of your life. They just change shape. I was crying. So was Catherine. My dad is in the bracelet I made for my mom. He's in the way I tell jokes. He's in how I try to be brave when I'm scared. And he's in my heart, which is the best place for a hero to live. Ethan looked right at Catherine. And I think that's true for all the people we love who die. They live in us. In the things we make.
The real
and
treasures
the
in
people we
life
help
aren't the
and
things we
love give
achieve,
away.
but the memories
So
we
my
create
hero
and the
isn't
people we
gone.
share them with.
He's just everywhere now. The gymnasium erupted in applause. Catherine grabbed my hand and squeezed. Out of the mouths of babes, she whispered. Literally. After the presentation, we went for ice cream. Me, Ethan, and Catherine. We sat outside the shop in the cool evening air, watching the sunset. I made a decision, Catherine said suddenly. About what? About everything. I'm stepping back from work. I'm finding a new therapist, one who doesn't think grief is something to medicate away. And I'm starting a foundation in Tori's name. A foundation. For kids with cancer. To provide art supplies and therapy and resources for creative expression during treatment. Because Tori's beads saved her life. Not physically, but spiritually. They gave her something to do with her hands when her body was failing. They gave her a way to leave love behind. That's beautiful. I want to call it Tori's beads. And I want Ethan to be part of the first fundraiser. He can tell people about the bracelet, about how love travels in unexpected ways. Ethan's eyes went huge. Really? I get to help. If your mom says it's okay. Can I, Mom? Please. I looked at Catherine, at this woman who'd entered my life through anger and accusation and had become something like family in the span of a week. Yes, I said. We can help. Catherine smiled, and I realized I'd never seen her look truly happy until that moment. Thank you, she said. For everything. For understanding. For not running away when I ambushed you in that thrift store. For letting your son's magic work on me. Thank you, I countered. For helping me see that this bracelet is more than just Ethan's gift. It's a whole network of love. Yours, Tori's, Michael's, mine, Ethan's. All of us connected by beads and grief and hope. Like a family, she said quietly. Like a family, I agreed. Ethan, his face covered in chocolate ice cream, grinned at both of us. I told you the beads were magic, he said matter-of-factly. Nobody ever believes me, but I'm always right about magic. 6 months later, I stood in the ballroom of a downtown hotel at the first annual Tories Beads fundraiser gala. Catherine had gone all out. There were stations where kids could make their own bracelets, a silent auction featuring jewelry created by cancer survivors, and a video presentation showing Tori's story. Ethan was the keynote speaker. At 8 years old, he stood on a stage in front of 200 people and told them about finding Tori's beads at an estate sale, about listening to what they needed, about making his sad mom a bracelet that turned out to be magic after all. Grown-ups don't always believe in magic, he said seriously. But that doesn't mean it's not real. My dad died and Tori died, but their love didn't die. It just found new ways to travel. Through beads. Through bracelets. Through the people we give them to. He held up his wrist. He was wearing a bracelet now too, one he'd made himself from beads we'd bought together. So if you know someone who's sad, make them something. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be made with love. Because love is the best magic there is. Standing backstage, Catherine grabbed my hand. He's remarkable, she whispered. He gets it from his father. He gets it from you. The fundraiser raised $47,000 that night. Enough to provide art therapy supplies for 3 pediatric oncology wards. And when it was over, Catherine, Ethan, and I sat on the hotel steps, exhausted and happy. I have something for you, Catherine said. She pulled out a small box. Inside was a photograph in a silver frame. Tori holding up her collection of bracelets, smiling despite the hospital gown and the 4 in her arm. I want you to have this, Catherine said. So Ethan can see the girl whose beads chose him. So you can remember that this whole beautiful mess started with her. I took the photo, tears streaming. Thank you. I'll treasure this. And I have something for you. I pulled out a folded piece of paper. It's a letter Michael wrote to Ethan before he died. He wrote one for every year until Ethan turns 18. This one is for this year. I thought, maybe you'd want to read it with me, so you can hear how he talked about love and loss and moving forward. Catherine took the letter like it was holy. Are you sure? I'm sure. You understand this language. The language of loving people who aren't here anymore. The language of beads and bracelets and 8-year-olds who see magic everywhere. We sat there on those steps as the sun set, reading Michael's letter together while Ethan played on the hotel lawn. Dear Ethan, if you're reading this, I'm not there to celebrate your 8th year with you. I'm sorry for that. I wanted to be there for everything. Your first day of school, your first heartbreak, your graduation, your wedding. But life had other plans. By now, you've learned that death is part of life. That people we love leave us. And I want you to know something important. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to miss me. It's okay to cry and yell and feel angry that I'm not there. But here's what I need you to remember. Love doesn't end. It transforms. It becomes the kindness you show strangers, the courage you find when you're scared, the joy you create even in sad times. It becomes the person you are because of the people who loved you. Take care of your mom. She's stronger than she knows, but she'll need you to remind her sometimes. And remember, the best magic is the kind you make yourself. With your hands, your heart, your choices to love people even when it's hard. You're my hero, kiddo. Always have been. Love, Dad. When we finished reading, both Catherine and I were sobbing. Ethan walked over, concerned. Why are you crying? Are you sad? No, baby, I said. We're happy. Happy that your dad and Tori left us so much love. Happy that we found each other. Happy that you believe in magic. Ethan nodded sagely. Magic is real, he said for the 1000th time. And love is the realest magic there is. Catherine pulled him into a hug. You're absolutely right, she said. Love is the realest magic there is. A year later, Catherine and I were co-directors of Tori's Beads Foundation. We'd expanded to 12 hospitals and provided art therapy for over 300 children. Richard and Catherine had divorced, not bitterly, but with the understanding that they grieved differently and that was okay. Catherine had sold her company and devoted herself to the foundation. Ethan and I had moved into a better apartment. Money was still tight, but we were surviving. More than surviving, we were building a life. And I still wore the bracelet. Every single day. On the anniversary of the day Catherine confronted me in the thrift store, the three of us met at that same coffee shop. Can you believe it's been a year? Catherine asked. Feels like yesterday. Feels like forever, I said. I was so angry that day, she admitted. So broken. I saw those beads and lost my mind. You weren't crazy, I said firmly. You were grieving. There's a difference. I know that now. Thanks to you. Thanks to Ethan. Ethan, now 9, was making yet another bracelet at the table. This one for a little girl at the hospital who'd requested something blue, like the sky. You know what's funny? Catherine said, watching him work. That day, I thought finding Tori's bracelet would bring her back somehow. That if I could just hold on to this one piece of her, she'd be less gone. And I was right. But not the way I thought. She came back through Ethan. Through you. Through every kid who makes a bracelet at our workshops and feels a little less alone. She's more alive now than she was when I was trying to keep her frozen in memory. Michael too, I said. I thought the bracelet was just Ethan's gift. But it was Michael's too. His love, traveling forward through our son's hands. Through Tori's beads. Through you. We sat in silence, watching Ethan string blue beads with absolute concentration. I have a question for you, Catherine said finally. Shoot. Do you believe in fate? In meant to be? In the idea that some things are supposed to happen exactly the way they do? I thought about that day in the thrift store. About how angry Catherine had been, how scared I'd been. About how it could have ended in police reports and restraining orders. About how instead, it ended in friendship and healing and a foundation that was saving lives. I believe in beads, I said. I believe that sometimes, grief cracks us open in ways that let unexpected light in. I believe your daughter's love found my son, and his love found you, and somehow that means we were all supposed to meet. Me too, Catherine said softly. Ethan looked up from his work. Are you guys being sappy again? Yes, we said in unison. Good. Sappy is nice sometimes. He went back to his beads, and Catherine and I sat there, watching this remarkable child who'd brought us together, who'd taught us that love doesn't end, it just changes shape. That grief can connect strangers. That magic is real if you're brave enough to believe. And that the best gifts are the ones that travel from heart to heart, carrying love forward into a world that desperately needs it. This is the end of our story, but maybe the beginning of yours. Have you ever experienced an unexpected connection that changed your life? A moment where grief or loss led you to someone you needed? Share your story in the comments, because I truly believe that every story of love traveling forward is magic worth telling. And who knows? Maybe your story will be the bracelet someone else needs to wear. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.